The first thing the general did upon returning to the capital was to demote me from wife to concubine. After falling from the cliff and losing his memory, he was rescued by a peasant girl. They married and bore a son and a daughter. For a mere peasant girl to become the general's concubine was already a great leap upward. Yet she was no ordinary peasant girl, she was the long-lost legitimate daughter of the Duke of Britain's household. The general condescended to say to me, "You are but an orphaned girl. Having enjoyed years of luxury in the general's mansion, it is already a favor to keep you as a concubine. Do not be greedy and harbor excessive ambitions." He spoke these words without looking at me. He stood tall, forcing me to tilt my head back to see his face. His name was Lin, and he possessed striking good looks. Though a military commander, he was not coarse but rather handsome and scholarly. On our wedding night, he lifted my veil only to be urgently summoned away. All I saw was his departing back, clad in his wedding attire. This was the first time I had ever truly seen the face of the husband I had been married to for 3 years. Yet my husband did not seem to care for me. His brow furrowed, his tone impatient. "Did you hear what I said just now?" I withdrew my gaze and gave a slight nod. "I understand." Lin's expression softened slightly. "Good. You've managed the household affairs of the general's residence these past years. Continue to oversee them. But once Ahi enters the residence, she will be the sole mistress of the house. Though you manage the household, you remain a secondary wife. In all matters, she must be honored above all." Ahi was the peasant girl Lin had brought back. 3 years ago, on his wedding night, he received orders to march to war. En route, his troops fell into an ambush. Lin was ambushed and tragically plunged off a cliff. Fortunately, Ahi saved him. He suffered a head injury then, losing his memory. Living day and night with Ahi, affection naturally blossomed between them. They married like common folk and bore children. But recently, Lin regained all his memories. He was no ordinary commoner, he was the general of the He family from the capital. He planned to take his wife and child back to the capital. On the journey, they encountered an old servant from the Duke of Ying's mansion. Recognizing Ahi's face and catching sight of the butterfly birthmark behind her ear, the old man burst into tears, gripping her hand in overwhelming emotion. Only then did he learn Ahi's identity was no less extraordinary. She was the long-lost legitimate daughter of the Duke of Britain's household. Already deeply in love, their newly discovered noble status made them a perfect match, destined by heaven. Yet Lin had already taken a wife in the capital. Given Ahi's current standing as the Duke's legitimate daughter, she could even enter the palace as an imperial consort. How could she possibly become a concubine? After much deliberation, he could only demote me, an orphaned girl whose parents had died, from wife to concubine. As if that weren't enough, he frowned and warned me, "Ahi and I have promised each other lifelong fidelity. Though you are my concubine, I will never touch you. Be grateful for Ahi's kindness in allowing you to remain as a concubine. Keep your thoughts to yourself. If you behave, the general's residence may still have a place for you." With that, Lin left me behind, striding away without a second glance, unconcerned with my thoughts. He didn't care what I thought. In his eyes, I was merely an orphaned girl with no choice but to cling to the general's residence, tail tucked between my legs, begging for scraps of existence before them. As he exited, he even brushed his sleeves, as if sharing a space with me would soil him. I watched him depart in silence. "Xiao'er," the maid attending me, flushed crimson with fury, "the general has gone too far. What noble lady in the entire capital has committed no wrong to be so easily demoted from wife to concubine? If only master were still here." Not long after my marriage, a fire broke out at home for no apparent reason. My parents couldn't escape, and the entire Jiang household was burned to the ground. Everything was lost. "Xiao'er." I lowered my eyes and interrupted her softly, "Your young mistress isn't a pushover. She won't suffer wrongs without a fight." I rummaged through my dowry chests and retrieved a silver lock wrapped in a handkerchief. The lock was plain, the kind sold anywhere, not a valuable item. I handed it to Xiao'er. "Deliver this lock to Bao Cheng, the shopkeeper. Soon we'll leave this place, and they won't gain a single advantage." Though Xiao'er didn't understand, she nodded. This servant trusts the young mistress, of course. Divorce is no simple matter. This general's mansion may appear grand, but it's nothing but an empty facade. These past 3 years, without my dowry constantly propping it up, it would have collapsed long ago. Lin married me solely because he coveted my mother's wealth. She was the only daughter of a wealthy merchant. He intended to use my dowry to plug the holes in the general's mansion's finances. In our dynasty, a woman can take her dowry with her upon divorce, but not upon repudiation. That's why he condescended to make me his concubine. Besides, with the Duke of Ying as his father-in-law now, seizing my dowry would be effortless. To divorce him, I needed a patron even more powerful than the Duke of Ying. He and her 2 children had been taken in by the Duke of Ying's household. Lin disdained to seek me out, and I was perfectly content with my freedom. I meticulously audited the accounts from these past 3 years. Seeing the significantly increased silver reserves, my heart couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. Rising from my chair with aching back and waist, I realized dawn had already broken. I had barely lain down when a maid roused me. "Madam. Mistress, the general has arrived with the lady. Please rise quickly to receive them." Lin hadn't formally announced my demotion from wife to concubine. Yet upon returning home, he instructed that he should henceforth be addressed as madam, for she was now the proper mistress of the house. A hesitant servant approached me. "How should we address her?" Lin merely sneered with disdain. "From now on, she's merely a concubine in my general's residence. Don't you understand how to address her?" I accepted it quickly. It wouldn't last long anyway. Only the maids in my courtyard, who'd called me mistress for 3 years, found it hard to adjust. After a quick tidy, I stepped out of my room. The moment he saw me, Lin frowned and scolded. "What kind of concubine sleeps until the sun is high in the sky? Once he enters the manor, you must go before the mistress daily to learn your place." He cast him a coy, reproachful glance. "Lin, don't be so harsh. You make me sound like some cruel mistress." He now bore little resemblance to the woman I'd first met. Her head was adorned with jewels, her face carefully painted with rouge and powder, and her garments were made of the finest, most luxurious fabrics. Standing there silent, she truly bore the air of a noble lady. She scanned the courtyard, nodding with satisfaction. "This courtyard is quite nice. Before, as Alan's wife, you lived in the main quarters, that was acceptable. But once I enter the household, you may no longer reside here." I bowed submissively. "You are right, madam. This was my oversight. I shall move out today." Seeing my compliance, she beamed with satisfaction. Yet her gaze lingered on me, scrutinizing me once more. "Lin and I vowed to be each other's one and only for life. But I heard you lost your family, left utterly alone. I couldn't bear to have Lin drive you from the estate, so I kept you as a concubine." Her tone shifted abruptly as her gaze turned sharp. "Though you are a concubine, is this flamboyant attire meant to seduce Lin?" At the word seduce Lin, I couldn't help but lower my head to scrutinize my own attire. Truthfully, it wasn't much different from usual, merely a touch brighter than before. Lin, however, seemed to agree with this assessment, shooting me a look of utter disgust. You alone dwell in my heart. To me, other women are nothing but commonplace, vulgar creatures." Lin's words were filled with deep affection. He blushed shyly, lowering her head with a sweet smile. Had I not glimpsed a fleeting look of astonishment in Lin's eyes, I might have truly believed their love ran deep as the sea. It was truly unbearable, like sitting on pins and needles, like thorns in my back, like a fishbone stuck in my throat. Lin's wedding to was set for the near future, and he entrusted all affairs to me. He spent his days immersed in sweet affection with The list of gifts for was long, over 80 palanquins worth, rivaling even a princess's dowry. Xiaor grew indignant for me. "What extravagance! The general marries a new wife yet expects you to foot the bill." I winked at her. "Who says I must pay? He who takes the wife pays the price." "But where would the estate find such wealth?" Xiaor strained to listen, eyes wide with delight, exclaiming how satisfying it was. Though the estate's funds were insufficient, the general's residence was, after all, a fine estate. I sent Xiaor with the dowry list to make the purchases, using only the general's name to secure credit, to be repaid after the wedding. If the debt remained unpaid 3 days after the marriage, they could always use the general's residence as collateral. Consider it a parting gift for Helin. I hadn't intended to be so ruthless, but recently, Helin and Ahi summoned me once more. They made me watch them act affectionate and intimate, then beat me senseless. After all that fuss, they graciously informed me, on the day of my wedding to Ahi, you must declare before all the guests that you feel unworthy compared to her and voluntarily demote your wife to a concubine. I smiled and agreed. A few days ago, that official replied, agreeing to help. But I, Jiang Yan, have never been a pushover, someone to be manipulated at will. Just how smug Helin is now, he'll regret it all the more later. Helin cares deeply about this marriage alliance with the Duke of Britain's household. Every prominent figure in the capital was invited. Thinking they could extract silver from my purse, they organized everything with extravagant luxury. The spectacle was immense. Until the two bowed before the altar, it was time for me to speak. Contrary to their expectations, I nearly looked at the crowd. I, Jiang Yan, was married into the general's household 3 years ago through proper betrothal. In these 3 years, I have committed not a single fault. Yet Helin seeks to divorce his wife and remarry. Today, before all of you, I demand a formal divorce. Helin, who had been beaming with joy, turned grim the moment he heard the word divorce, his face darkening with menace. He glared at me coldly. What nonsense are you spouting? Get down from there. I met his gaze unwaveringly, enunciating each word distinctly. I, Jiang Yan, demand a divorce from you. Under the collective gaze of the crowd, Helin softened his tone. Jiang Yan. Stop this nonsense. The Jiang family is long gone. You have no relatives left in this world. Where would you possibly go alone after leaving the general's manor? My expression remained resolute as I repeated clearly, loud enough for all to hear, I said I want a divorce. Seeing my unwavering determination, Helin hardened his stance once more. You are merely a concubine in my general's mansion. What right do you have to demand a divorce? No sooner had the words left his mouth than a clear, resonant voice echoed from beyond the door. Oh? How is it that I, who have searched for years, find my betrothed has become a concubine to General He? The voice was not loud, yet it silenced everyone present. The speaker was Jiang Ji, the eunuch who now held the seal of authority over the Eastern factory. He was the patron I had come to rely on, seeking repayment for past favors. Recognizing Jiang Ji, Helin's brow furrowed. What does Chief Jiang mean by this? Though he had been away from the capital for 3 years, he had heard of Jiang Ji's immense power. His Majesty placed great importance on the Eastern factory while harboring deep suspicion toward the aristocratic clans. Moreover, Jiang Ji was known for his cold, ruthless nature and brutal methods. To oppose him meant entering the Eastern factory with the certainty of either death or severe punishment. Even the Duke of Ying had to avoid clashing with him. Jiang Ji gave him a cold, dismissive glance. The Duke of Ying hastily offered him the seat of honor, but Jiang Ji merely waved it away. I have come today solely to retrieve my betrothed. Whether General He marries her as a wife or takes her as a concubine is none of my concern. Helin, proud and arrogant, suppressed his anger at Jiang Ji's blatant disregard. So you mean to say that Jiang Yan, who has been married to me for 3 years, is your betrothed? He bowed with clasped hands, his gaze fixed intently upon me. Each word seemed to be squeezed through clenched teeth. I raised an eyebrow slightly, finding it rather satisfying to see him seething yet unable to speak his mind in Jiang Ji's presence. He held no affection for me. Upon hearing that the wife he had discarded was involved with another man, he felt his dignity as a man had been insulted. Even if Jiang Ji was merely a eunuch. Jiang Ji remained impassive. Yes. As the keeper of the imperial seal, you hold a position of honor. Surely you wouldn't stoop to forcibly taking another man's wife? Jiang Ji arched an eyebrow, his tone laced with amusement. Oh, another man's wife? Helin regained his confidence, straightening his posture. Jiang Yan married into the He household 3 years ago. This is common knowledge. Jiang Ji nodded. I have indeed heard of it. Then he shifted his tone abruptly. Our dynasty's laws hold no precedent for abandoning one's wife to remarry. Is General He disregarding the law? His voice was cold, yet the entire hall of guests held their breath, all eyes fixed on Helin. He Lin's expression shifted slightly, shooting me a warning glance. Jiang Yan has borne no children in 3 years. Feeling unworthy of the position of principal wife, she long ago demoted herself to concubine. Today, the new wife enters the household precisely to announce this fact before all guests. He truly thought me a soft target, easy to manipulate. Jiang Shi turned his gaze to me. Is that so? Though Jiang Shi and I had no prior connection, those two light, casual words gave me immense confidence. I stepped beside Jiang Shi and met his gaze. It is not as general he claims. He Lin's fists clenched, his eyes fixed on me like daggers. I met his stare without flinching. 3 years ago, the general came to ask for my hand, only to be summoned to war on our wedding night. After returning to the capital, he never once stayed overnight in my quarters. I remain a virgin to this day. How could I possibly bear his child alone? He Lin's face darkened as he hissed, shameless. Ignoring him, I continued, the first words general he spoke to me upon his return were that he was his one and only wife, and he intended to spend his life with her alone. I ask you this, general, where did I stand when you spoke those words? I had always kept my eyes downcast and my voice submissive before He Lin. He never once regarded me as worthy of notice. Yet now, standing before him with neither humility nor arrogance, I questioned him. Only then did he turn his gaze upon me, studying me for a long moment before frowning. Are you resentful toward me? His words nearly made me laugh aloud. Did he truly believe himself some precious treasure? I must thank he. Had he truly shared my bed, I would have vomited my guts out. I bear no resentment toward you, General. I cannot bear to tear apart lovers. Miss He and the 2 children are both wonderful. Jiang Yan willingly grants you your wish and requests a divorce. He Lin's face turned ashen, and he tried to speak. The Duke of Ying saw Jiang Shi standing behind me and stopped him. Though unwilling, He Lin regained some clarity. He knew Jiang Shi had come today to support me. Never before had there been any mention of the Jiang family having dealings with this lord of the underworld. Persisting in obstruction would only make matters worse. Reluctantly, He Lin wrote the divorce papers. But as I pressed my seal onto them, he couldn't resist adding a spiteful remark, "Don't come crying to me later." I offered him a faint smile. To help others achieve their desires, Jiang Yan has no regrets. With Jiang Shi present, the divorce proceedings were swiftly concluded. He Lin watched with a face as dark as iron as I had my dowry carried away from the general's residence, box by box. I kindly explained to him, the general is newly wed. Old belongings and people would only offend the new wife's eyes. Jiang Yan naturally must clear away all her possessions. For 3 years, I had personally arranged every detail within these walls. Since I was leaving, I intended to take everything that belonged to me. Even the ginkgo tree in the courtyard was ordered uprooted. The vast general's mansion soon felt noticeably emptier. He Lin, pushed beyond endurance, snapped, "Enough. Jiang Yan, don't push your luck." I shook my head and produced the ledger. Not enough. Beyond my dowry, the general still owes me 30,000 taels. Hearing this, He Lin's brow furrowed. You're making things up. Since we're divorcing, stop this nonsense and save us both the embarrassment. I placed the ledger before him. 3 years ago, when I entered this household, the general's residence was already in deficit. Social obligations and servants' monthly wages were covered by my dowry. General, would you care to examine it? He snatched the ledger, his expression darkening with each page. Finally, he slammed it shut. How does the general intend to repay this? His voice was strained, teeth gritted. Repay? From the household funds. I shook my head at him. The household budget holds no silver. He Lin glared at me. You did this on purpose. To humiliate him. I feigned surprise. How could that be? Though fate denied us as husband and wife, we still share a bond of affection. His expression softened slightly. What do you propose? My smile grew gentler. Naturally, I've considered the general's best interests. Every brick and tile of the general's residence is of the finest quality. They could certainly offset some of the debt. The general's residence was grandly constructed, with bluestone bricks and glazed tiles. Though aged, it wasn't worth much. Still, the quantity was substantial. Considering Helin's wedding today, I specifically instructed the servants to preserve the bricks and tiles from the bridal chamber. I couldn't help but reflect inwardly, women are always so tender-hearted. Even though Helin treated me this way, I still went out of my way to consider him. I turned and ordered them to take the stone lions at the gate as well. As we departed, Jiangxi and I rode together in the same carriage. We were not acquainted, nor had we ever crossed paths before. His coming to aid me was merely a repayment of a debt I had placed upon him. Before my departure, my father pressed a silver lock into my hand. He told me only that someone owed him a favor. Should I ever face a situation beyond my own resolution, I was to deliver the lock to Bao Qing, the shopkeeper. Someone would then stand behind me. I never imagined that person would be Jiangxi. Of course, I hadn't pinned all my hopes on him. I'd already prepared my accounts and purchased land and a residence in Jiangnan. Even if Helin wouldn't let me leave, within half a month, I'd fake my death and escape with all my dowry. With him by my side, I could make Helin suffer even more. I had just stepped out of the general's residence. Helin, furious, ordered someone to splash water behind me to ward off bad luck. What baffled me was why Jiangxi claimed I was his betrothed. Sharing his carriage, I dared not speak much or look up, keeping my eyes fixed on my hem. Afraid of me? He murmured with a light chuckle. I lifted my gaze and met a pair of indifferent eyes. Though he smiled, the warmth didn't reach his eyes. Jiangxi possessed striking features. Strikingly handsome yet not effeminate, his brow radiated a heroic spirit, giving no hint that he was once a eunuch. I answered honestly, a little. Liar. He lowered his gaze, long lashes concealing the emotion in his eyes. I remained silent, my fingers unconsciously twisting the hem of my robe. The carriage was exceptionally spacious, and the driver was skilled, steering smoothly, not a single drop spilled from the teacups on the small table. Jiangxi placed one cup before me. If you truly feared me, you wouldn't be scheming to use me. His piercing gaze sent a chill down my spine, making me break out in a cold sweat. The moment I saw Jiangxi, I had already made my calculations. I had heard that before entering the palace, Jiangxi had been a beggar. I had ordered bricks and tiles removed from the general's mansion to be sent to the orphanage in the suburbs of the capital, and donated 10,000 taels to build an academy. All for the sake of befriending Jiangxi. Miss Jiang, I believe I'm correct, am I not? Though phrased as a question, it carried the certainty of a statement. Knowing these petty tricks couldn't deceive him, I could only nod in acknowledgement. This humble maiden harbors no ulterior motives. I merely seek your assistance in seizing the seal to uncover the murderer who destroyed the Jiang family, whatever the cost. 3 years ago, a nighttime inferno reduced my parents and brothers to ashes, leaving not a single trace behind. Beneath the emperor's very nose, an entire family of imperial officials wiped out by fire. It was too shocking to be true. To anyone's eyes, it couldn't have been an accident. That the Ministry of Justice couldn't uncover the truth meant the mastermind behind it was no ordinary figure. I was merely a woman confined to the inner quarters, my abilities limited. My search yielded nothing, vengeance had no path. Jiangxi's appearance gave me hope. Whatever the cost, I will see this through to the end. Others say I am a cruel killer. Are you certain you wish to make a deal with me? Rumor has it that officials, seeking favor with Jiangxi, sent beautiful women to his bed. The next day, those women were flayed alive, their skin fashioned into lanterns. I know not the truth behind these tales, yet I have seen those lanterns hanging at his mansion's gate. Those who entered the eastern factory never emerged looking human. Jiangxi was certainly no saint. In a place like the palace, where people devour one another, how could anyone who climbed to the position of chief censor be purely virtuous? I stared at him intently. Didn't the chief censor agree? Not too stupid. He declared to everyone that I was his betrothed, then pulled me close. The incident at the general's residence had utterly disgraced Helin. What was meant to be a splendid union between two noble families ended with half the manor carried away, leaving them a laughingstock. He had been a peasant girl before. After arriving in the capital, the Duke and Duchess of Ing only focused on compensating her for past hardships. They bought her clothes and jewelry, yet never taught her how to manage household affairs. Veiled in joy, she believed she'd married her beloved and would live in luxury. Little did she know the general's mansion was bankrupt, its very bricks and tiles looted. Ah-ho, utterly lost, clutched Helin's sleeve, pleading for guidance. What could be done? The deficit must be covered. Naturally, Helin had no such funds. Had he wouldn't have schemed to seize my dowry. He could only embrace Ah-he gently, coaxing her to use her dowry as a temporary stopgap. Though Helin always treated me with high-handed arrogance, he certainly knew how to charm a woman. Ah-he, you know that venomous Jiang Yen. She's managed the household finances for years, she must have embezzled silver. Worse, she's found Jiang Shi as her backer. We can't touch her. For now, my dear wife must cover the deficit. Once I earn military merit, I'll repay you 1,000-fold. I'll even petition for your noble title. Ah-he clearly fell for his words and immediately produced the silver. The couple shared another moment of deep affection. But barely 2 days of peace passed before the shopkeeper who'd handled the pre-wedding purchases arrived again, bearing a promissory note. Helin had always assumed he'd outsmarted me, deliberately selecting the most expensive items for the dowry list. He never imagined he'd have to repay the debt himself. Naturally, he refused to acknowledge the note and even drove the man out. Most merchants would back down after such treatment. I had anticipated this outcome, deliberately selecting shops associated with noble ladies' dowries. These shopkeepers had powerful connections and feared no one. They promptly filed a lawsuit against Helin with the authorities. He stared at the general's seal on the promissory note yet stubbornly denied responsibility, claiming he hadn't signed it and thus owed nothing. In the capital, you could throw a stone and hit a third-rank official. Those who become prefects of the capital are smooth operators with keen insight. Helin was nothing special, but he married the eldest daughter of the Duke of Britain, with the Duke himself backing him. He was untouchable. I had divorced him, so ordinarily, they could just pin the blame on me. But I, too, have a patron, the second in command, Jiang Shi. He's untouchable as well. Yet he summoned me here, merely to probe Jiang Shi's intentions. Everyone knows Jiang Shi is a eunuch. How much affection could a castrated man possibly hold for a woman? When Helin saw me, disgust solidified in his eyes. Dropping all pretense, he unleashed a torrent of accusations. Wretch! You deliberately ran up debts to frame me, your schemes are truly vile. Faced with Helin's fury, I could only find it amusing. I bowed to the prefect of the capital. Your Honor, I assure you I did not intentionally run up debts as the general claims. The general needed funds for his new bride's dowry, yet the household accounts held no silver. This was an unavoidable necessity. Helin sneered coldly, this general had no desire to remain entangled with a woman like you. During my 3 years away from the capital, you managed the household accounts. Whether the ledgers showed surplus or deficit depended solely on your word, that much I could tolerate. But your greed knows no bounds, you've even dared to run up debts in the general's name. I stammered in alarm, it was my fault. Had I known the general intended to use my dowry for the betrothal gifts, I would never have helped you run up those debts. He wanted to frame me for tampering with the ledgers, but I wouldn't give him that chance. Helin was visibly enraged, unable to speak. He had indeed planned this. But he hadn't expected me to shout it out in public. If I admitted it, he'd lose all face. After a long pause, he finally choked out, flattery and deceit. The ledger was still in the general's residence. He'd already realized he'd dug a pit for me to fall into. If I said I'd check the ledger, it would play right into his hands. The prefect of the capital wouldn't dare offend Jiang Shi, but he'd offend the Duke of Ying even less. Yet if Helin presented the tampered ledger, the prefect would still accept it. The prefect cleared his throat at the perfect moment and addressed me, Madam Jiang, these promissory notes were all borrowed when you were still the mistress of the general's residence. Is that correct? I nodded. Yes. Then you acknowledge the debt? I widened my eyes. So your honor believes that when my husband remarries, as the former mistress of the house, I should dip into my dowry to pay for his bride price? He only dared to take sides because Jiang Shi wasn't present. That is not what I meant. According to the laws of our dynasty, whoever borrows must repay. Since you admit the debts were yours, you must repay them. Do you object? He appeared impartial, yet his bias toward Helin was ever present. This humble maiden has no objection. I had anticipated this outcome when I acted, and naturally had a plan to handle it. My gaze fixed earnestly on the magistrate of Jingzhou. May I ask, Your Honor, when I repay the debt, will the goods I purchased on credit be returned to me? Helin couldn't sit still upon hearing this. Jiang Yan. I thought you were merely short-sighted, but I never imagined you'd be so petty. The magistrate froze in place, taking a long moment before replying. The principle is sound, but you were once part of the general's household, so... Jiang Ji cut him off. So what? Even before arriving, I had sent someone to find him. As his betrothed, it was only natural he would serve as my protector. Jiang Ji fixed the magistrate of Jingzhou with a half-smile. I'm unaware when our dynasty's laws stipulated that a wife must pay for her husband's wedding out of her own pocket. His lips curved in amusement, yet his gaze remained icy, making the magistrate break out in a cold sweat. Not at all, not at all. The Lord Magistrate is joking. General, he is here too? Jiang Ji seemed to only now notice Helin. I thought it was Yan Yan who had borrowed money for her dowry. When it came to sarcasm, Jiang Ji was a master. That single sentence caused all three men present to change their expressions. I felt an indescribable pang at the mention of Yan Yan. The magistrate of Jingzhou was filled with dread at Jiang Ji's blatant favoritism. As for Helin, he was utterly humiliated. Jiang Ji's arrival made it clear to the magistrate and all onlookers that he was deeply invested in me, his fiancée. Helin took full responsibility for the promissory note. News travels fast in the capital. By the time I returned to Jiang Ji's residence, countless invitations had already been delivered to me. Jiang Ji plucked one from the pile, a lotus appreciation banquet. Sounds intriguing. It was an invitation from the wife of Minister Zhang. Admiring lotuses, cruising the lake, savoring lotus seeds, indeed, an exquisitely refined affair. On the day of the banquet, Jiang Ji personally escorted me to the gates of the minister's residence. As I stepped down from the carriage, he gently reminded me to enjoy myself. How fortuitous, I bumped right into He. She was still dressed in vibrant colors, yet her complexion looked much more haggard. Helin had no spare funds, so he could only ask He to return the betrothal gifts. The Duke of Ying, upon learning of this, immediately refused and demanded Helin find his own solution. But he never imagined his own daughter had been completely charmed by Helin. The more he obstructed them, the more he believed their bond was unbreakable. Now, her gaze toward me was venomous, as if she wished to devour me alive. You've chosen degradation. I refuse to be the general's concubine. I thought you'd found a better match, but it's just a eunuch. Not even a real man. I walked slowly toward her and struck her across the face. The sharp crack drew the attention of those around us. Under Ahi's stunned gaze, my voice turned icy. I chose him, so he is the best in my heart. Miss Ahi may admire the general's valor and be willing to supplement the dowry, but to me, 1,000 generals couldn't compare to a single coin from the seal. Others, unaware of the background, shifted their glances toward Ahi when I mentioned supplementing the dowry. A dowry is a woman's own wealth. Only an incompetent husband would covet his wife's dowry. Ahi and I had no grudge, yet she insisted on making this disgusting scene. I wouldn't tolerate it. Jiang Ji may not be an ordinary man, but when I needed him, he stood firmly behind me, supporting me. He surpasses ordinary men by 1,000-fold. How could Helin, a man who only schemes against his own wife, possibly compare? I care not why Jiang Ji helps me, nor what his motives may be. A gentleman is judged by his deeds, not his intentions. That he acts is enough. The ladies attending today's banquet all heard about the scene Ahi and I made at the gate. Their scrutinizing gazes kept falling upon us. Ahi glared at me with venom, like a snake lurking in the shadows, waiting for its chance. Once the moment was ripe, she would strike, biting clean through her prey's neck. She didn't have to wait long. Her opportunity came swiftly. The minister's residence boasted a lotus pond. Lady Zhang invited everyone to board boats for a lake cruise and lotus picking. The moment I stepped onto the small boat, I felt a forceful shove from behind. Stumbling, on the verge of falling, I grabbed the hand that pushed me, and pulled Ahi, my assailant, into the lake with me. Though I could swim, I still choked on several mouthfuls of water. The lake water wasn't cold, but my soaked clothes clung to my skin, utterly unsuitable for appearing before others. With no other choice, I followed a maid to a side room to change and bathe. The moment I closed the door, someone seized my throat from behind. "Don't make a sound." The voice was hushed, yet I recognized it as Helen's. A faint scent of blood lingered on him, clear evidence of injury. He likely didn't know the person he was holding hostage was me, otherwise, he would have ended my life by now. I nodded obediently, not uttering a sound. My life was in his hands. With just a slight squeeze, I would be dead. When the maid heard the commotion and came to investigate, I couldn't help but cover for him. Nothing happened. I just lost my footing. Only then did Helen get a clear look at my face, his gaze turning icy. "Why is it you?" Tears welled in my eyes as I stared at him with lingering, sorrowful longing. Though Helen still frowned, his fingers loosened slightly. Ignoring his threat, I asked with faint concern, "Are you injured, General? Is it serious?" Then, lowering my gaze, I forced back my disappointment. "I know you feel nothing for me. Though we are divorced, I still wish for your health and well-being. Just pretend I never came." Helen paused slightly at my words. His tone remained icy, yet the murderous intent from before had clearly faded. I fought back a sob. "I understand." Yet tears still streamed down my cheeks. Helen raised his hand, as if to wipe them away. Seizing his distraction, I swung my leg up and kicked him hard in the groin. I watched expressionlessly as Helen writhed in pain on the floor. "Tsk. I thought you still had feelings for me." Jiangxi emerged slowly from behind the screen, his expression amused. Yet when he saw me, he froze. Only then did I realize my earlier movements had caused my outer robe to slip off. The damp fabric clung to me like a second skin, the fabric barely concealing the curves of my chest. Without a flicker of emotion, he draped the robe over me. "We have what we need. We can leave now." The banquet was merely a pretext. My true mission was to retrieve the ledger. I'd been pondering how to slip away when he approached. That was my chance. But before I could act, Jiangxi arrived himself. I even encountered Helen, whose wounds likely came from Jiangxi's hand. As I left, I glanced back at Helen, unconscious from pain, and delivered one final kick. Jiangxi watched with keen interest, drawing a dagger from his robe. "Shall I add another cut?" I shook my head. Spilling blood would only invite endless trouble. It wasn't that I dared not, but Jiangxi had also sneaked in. Now that we had what we needed, there was no point alerting others. He placed the dagger in my palm. "If you wish it, fear no trouble. I am here." Helen lay on the ground, lifeless as a dead dog. Back in my maiden's chamber, I too had harbored fantasies about my husband. In my youthful infatuation, I had secretly inquired about him. I heard tales of him as a young general, full of vigor and spirit, riding his horse by the slanting bridge, where red sleeves beckoned from the tower. On our wedding night, that fleeting glimpse of Helen's handsome features cast a tiny ripple in my heart that lingered long after. When I learned his body had vanished without a trace, I grieved for this husband I'd known but once. Had he truly died, or lived his life forgetting the past, perhaps a sliver of affection might have remained. But he returned. His manner toward me shattered that faint, almost imperceptible flutter of the heart. Seeing him and he in such deep affection, I felt no sorrow, only amusement. How foolish of me to have been momentarily distracted by him, harboring illusions. After our divorce, I moved into Jiangxi's residence, though we lived separately. He was busy with official duties, and I had my own affairs to attend to. The academy at the orphanage was completed long ago, built with bricks and tiles salvaged from the general's residence. Though I harbored hopes of pleasing Jiangxi, I was also genuinely committed to making education affordable for ordinary people. The academy stood tall and spacious, yet its library was pitifully sparse. The British Duke and other aristocratic families monopolized rare books and ancient texts, and most court officials hailed from these same clans. My father, not born into nobility, faced immense hardship in his studies. He never believed a woman's virtue lay in her lack of learning. He simply told me that reading enlightens the mind. Whatever my brothers studied, I studied alongside them. As a child, I disliked reading. The lessons seemed obscure and difficult, and the master's ruler stung my hands painfully. Day after day, I schemed for ways to slack off. Father watched helplessly. Being a girl, he couldn't beat me or scold me harshly. Suddenly, I recall him twirling his mustache, feigning anger, yet whispering soothing words when I'd tear up in frustration. My brother would mock my tears beside me, only to have Mother yank his ear until he cried out in pain. A gash in my heart suddenly split open, and a flood of emotions washed over me, stinging and aching, leaving me breathless. Through blurred vision, a figure enveloped me, sighing softly, "Why are you crying for no reason?" Jiangxi held a handkerchief, wiping away my tears with a serious expression. His striking features, bathed in candlelight, radiated tender affection. Seeing him, I felt inexplicably wronged once more. "I miss my father, mother, and brother." He patted my back gently. "Soon. Very soon, we'll avenge them." The ledger Jiangxi retrieved revealed the truth behind the Jiang family's massacre. My father held a key position in the Ministry of Revenue and uncovered its financial embezzlement. Refusing to accept bribes from aristocratic families, he devoted himself to supporting scholars from humble backgrounds, a choice that cost his entire family their lives. Jiangxi was one of those scholars my father had once aided. In his youth, his family possessed modest wealth, only to be crushed by the aristocracy, losing both fortune and life. Only he, a teenager, and his elderly grandmother were left, barely clinging to life. When my father met him, he was kneeling before a bookstore, begging the proprietor to let him copy books for money to buy medicine for his grandmother. Moved by his talent, my father arranged for a doctor to treat his grandmother and gave him silver to continue his studies. Just as their fortunes seemed to be turning, his grandmother was struck down by a nobleman's horse galloping down the street. She couldn't dodge in time and died under the hooves. Jiangxi tried to seek justice, but was beaten nearly to death. He took all his remaining silver to buy a silver lock, which he gave to my father. Then he entered the palace. Starting as a lowly eunuch, he climbed the ranks step by step. Over a decade of grinding patience and endurance finally brought him to his current position. Jiangxi stroked my hair, stroke after stroke. His movements were gentle, his tone soft. "The academy is short on books. Shall I help you acquire some from the aristocratic families?" His voice, like that of a man coaxing a child, made me forget he was the merciless chief eunuch. "What should I do?" Jiangxi toyed with my hair, speaking casually. "My Yan was pushed into the water by people from the Duke of Ying's residence. She fell gravely ill and was deeply frightened. It only makes sense to demand some compensation from them." The words Yan rolled off his tongue with lingering tenderness, so intimately affectionate. I didn't consider myself exceptionally beautiful enough to capture Jiangxi's heart. And a question had always lingered in my mind: why did he claim to be my fiancé? I simply couldn't fathom it. It brought him no advantage whatsoever. I asked him why. Jiangxi chuckled softly, his cool fingertips brushing my earlobe, sending a wave of heat through me. "Do you think this is merely my excuse, Yan? Why couldn't it be true?" Jiangxi's words echoed relentlessly in my ears. They kept me awake all night, until the sun was high in the sky, and I finally drifted off in a daze. When I awoke again, it was already late in the day. Outside, torrential rain poured down, thunder rumbling incessantly. Jiangxi had left early in the morning and hadn't returned. He'd said yesterday it was to seek compensation for me. I trusted him, yet my eyelid kept twitching, my heart inexplicably heavy. The candle had been trimmed several times, while outside, the storm lashed the window panes with fierce wind. I stood under the porch, waiting conspicuously, until a tall, graceful figure appeared in the rain. He tilted the umbrella toward me, reaching out to touch my face. Waiting for me? He must have bathed recently, carrying the faint scent of soap nuts. "You were so late," I grew worried. He raised an eyebrow slightly, his gaze downcast as he murmured, "Encountered some trouble on the way back. That's why I was delayed. Are you hurt?" I stared at him anxiously, my entire focus fixed on Jiangxi. I didn't notice a bead underfoot and stumbled, nearly falling. Fortunately, Jiangxi reacted swiftly, pulling me into his arms. The scent of soap pods enveloped me. My face buried in his chest, I could even hear his strong heartbeat through the thin fabric. I tried to pull away, but he groaned softly. What's wrong? Jiangxi frowned slightly. You touched my wound. Stay still, Yen Yen. It hurts. Hearing this, I dared not move, afraid of aggravating his injury. Is it bad? Did you treat it? His return had likely been pursued by the Duke of Ying's men. The aristocratic families monopolized scholars through rare, unique books. Jiangxi had demanded their libraries as compensation, striking at their very foundation. It had enraged them. A low chuckle came from above my head. I grew anxious. Let me see. I'm worried. Let me hold you for a while. I'm tired. He buried his head in the crook of my neck. His warm breath made my whole body stiffen, unable to move. After that night, the relationship between Jiangxi and me became awkward. I didn't know how to interact with him. Those beautiful, mesmerizing eyes seemed to see right through me, making me want to flee in panic. I poured all my energy into the academy. With the British Duke's library now in our possession, the students treasured it like a priceless gift, showering me with praise. When word spread that Jiangxi had gifted the collection, his reputation began to improve. I welcomed this development. If Jiangxi's standing among the common folk remained perpetually poor, once the aristocratic families were eliminated, he would be next. When the birds are all gone, the bow is put away. When the cunning rabbit is dead, the hunting dog is cooked. Those in power need to quell public discontent, and the arrogant, ruthless Jiangxi was the perfect scapegoat. Jiangxi himself must have known this outcome. Yet he never considered it. But I wanted him to live. Seeing the students praise him, my heart eased slightly, only to turn and see Heilin. Heilin no longer carried his former air of lofty superiority. His face was haggard, clearly suffering the Duke of Ying's wrath over the ledger affair. He looked at me, his expression complex. Jiang Yan, you've gone to such lengths to build Jiangxi's reputation. Surely you don't actually intend to marry him? Seeing him stirred annoyance within me, and I turned to leave. He grabbed my arm abruptly. Jiangxi is ruthless. Do you really think he helps you without ulterior motives? He's just a eunuch, not an ordinary man. Don't delude yourself into thinking he could ever develop feelings for you. I wrenched my hand free and slapped him across the face. What business is it of yours? Heilin didn't grow angry. Shock filled his eyes, yet he persisted relentlessly. I'm doing this for your own good. I don't want you to be used. This man was hypocritical and disgusting. Once, he had looked down on me, scheming against me in every way. Now he feigned concern, pretending to be the good guy to warn me. I stared at him coldly, just as he had once stared at me. General we divorced long ago. In what capacity are you looking out for me? Heilin's eyes flickered slightly. I was wrong before, hurting your heart. But from now on... I cut him off. From now on what? Will you abandon the Duke of England to marry a suitable son-in-law? Or will you once again show mercy and take me as your concubine? He opened his mouth but no words came out. Heilin, I said earnestly, I care not what Jiangxi's motives are, nor whether he's truly a man. He's never wronged me. I married him of my own free will. Heilin's expression darkened. He forced a smile and rasped, don't speak rashly. Jiangxi is no suitable match. Marrying him will bring you regret. TSK. Is General He trying to poach my bride? Jiangxi appeared unnoticed, slipping his arm around my shoulder. He toyed with a strand of my hair, his tone nonchalant. Yen Yen won't regret marrying me. As for you, General He paused, casting a dismissive glance his way. Regret won't help you now. Heilin's dejected expression was laughable. He'd always towered above me, looking down with the arrogance of a superior. Treating me like a disposable plaything. Now he put on this act of deep affection, completely forgetting Ahi, the woman who saved his life and bore his children. The cruelty of men was fully displayed in him. Jiangxi brushed a stray strand of hair from my forehead. What are you thinking about? Only then did I realize Jiangxi had been holding me the entire time. The setting sun stretched our shadows long, intertwining as we leaned against each other. Crimson sunset light bathed his face, making his eyes and brows seem even more enchantingly beautiful. He lowered his gaze to look at me intently, his long lashes framing eyes whose pale irises reflected my image. As if possessed, I reached out to touch his eyes. He paused slightly but didn't move, letting me cover his eyes with my hand. My voice thick with complexity, I asked, "Jiangxi, why are you doing this?" I truly feared misunderstanding. Jiangxi chuckled softly. "What exactly? Marrying me, is it real?" He grasped the hand covering his eyes. "Yan Yan, you have feelings for me too, don't you?" I remained silent. He cupped my face with one hand, meeting my gaze with earnest eyes. "I bear a flaw. Do you despise me, Yan Yan?" I shook my head. He curved his lips. "Marrying me, you're willing, aren't you?" I lowered my eyes. "But I can't help you. Yan Yan, just never leaving me, that's enough." He drew close, his voice laced with enchantment. His crimson lips brushed my earlobe, sending tingling sensations that warmed my heart. Jiangxi said revenge would come swiftly. He didn't keep me waiting long. After the autumn examination results were posted, many academy scholars made the list, yet the top 3 remained sons of noble families. What should have been a joyous occasion turned grim when one candidate hanged himself beneath the golden notice that very night. He left a blood-stained letter, lamenting years of grueling study only to fail repeatedly, proclaiming the heavens unjust, the world unfair. Initially, it seemed a tragic act of despair over exam failure. Until another scholar from his hometown, after enduring punishment, struck the imperial drum to accuse the examiners of corruption and swapping answer sheets. The emperor, enraged, ordered a thorough investigation. Jiangxi seized the opportunity, presenting ledgers that exposed the Duke of Britain's faction, trading official positions, embezzlement, bribery, and factionalism. With the Duke's downfall, the aristocratic families lost their backbone and fell into disarray. Jiangxi gave them no respite, cutting through the chaos decisively. That night, blood flowed unceasingly along the long street. Jiangxi spared the Duke of Britain's life and brought me to his prison cell. Upon seeing me, the Duke burst into maniacal laughter. "I never imagined I'd fall at the hands of a eunuch and a little girl. If I'd known, I would have killed you outright." His eyes flashed with venom. "I never took you seriously back then. Little did I know that he who hunts the wild geese will have his eye pecked out by the gosling." Holding the dagger Jiangxi had given me, I stared at him expressionless. "In the eyes of your noble families, we are mere ants. But have you ever considered the mayfly shaking the tree?" The dagger plunged deep into his flesh, blood splattering across my face. My fingers trembled slightly as I gripped the blade. Jiangxi seized my hand. "Yan Yan, steady the blade. I'm here." I stabbed him repeatedly, avoiding vital organs. He couldn't die so easily. I bound the rest of the Duke of Ying's household together, drugged them, and drenched them in tung oil. Just like my parents and brother, they would feel the flames consume them while fully conscious. Watching their loved ones beside them, yet powerless to help. He was among them, shaking like a leaf, repeatedly kowtowing and wailing, "I was wrong. I was wrong. Please, don't kill me. I didn't harm your parents, you can't do this to me." As if remembering something, she gasped, "He Lin intended to take your life, I begged him to spare you. You can't kill me." Jiangxi gripped my hand, interlocking his fingers with mine. He sneered, "Then show some mercy." I looked at her, "My life isn't in your hands. You haven't killed me only because I still have value." Then I lit the firelighter. Instantly, flames roared skyward, drowning out the wails and curses. "If you don't uproot the weeds, spring winds will make them grow again. I see no need to leave myself any hidden threats." As for He Lin, I had his limbs crippled. Living in constant dread, reduced to the very form he once despised most, that alone will make him wish for death. It didn't take long before he went mad. He wept and laughed, muttering incessantly, "I am the general. Jiang Yan, you should be grateful to be my concubine. Ha 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 ha. Jiangxi is nothing but a filthy eunuch, how dare you marry him? You'll regret it, you'll regret it." "No. I regret it. Ha 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 ha. I regret it. If only I'd known, I'd never have returned to the capital. He Lin died soon after. He jumped off a cliff. Faced with threats from aristocratic families, Jiang Shi voluntarily resigned from his position as chief seal keeper, citing old injuries that wouldn't heal as an excuse to retire. Before leaving the palace, he even asked the emperor to inscribe a plaque for the academy. The academy's reputation soared, attracting scholars from all over the land. He would often wander around, occasionally answering questions and resolving doubts for the students. More often, he'd lean against me, twirling my hair. Stammering hesitantly, he'd ask if I regretted it. Until I produced a bead. Chancellor, what a brilliant scheme. That very bead that sent me tumbling into his arms. Jiang Shi remained impassive. It was my long-held desire for Yan Yan. Extra chapter, Jiang Shi, Jiang Yan was always my betrothed. Back then, Uncle Jiang held me in the highest regard. Seeing my talent for learning, he cherished me like a precious treasure and treated me exceptionally well. Not only did he send me to the academy, but he also hired a doctor to treat my grandmother's illness. I was deeply grateful to him. He often told me that if his daughter weren't so young, he would have betrothed her to me. He doted on his youngest daughter. I knew that little girl. Her name was Yan Yan. Yan Yan, whose laughter and smile were ever present. Barely 2 or 3 years old, she was as plump as a glutinous rice dumpling. Pale and adorable, she smiled at everyone. Uncle Jiang was usually stiff and stern, but whenever Yan Yan was mentioned, he couldn't stop grinning. I didn't understand at first. Until the little girl hugged my leg, flashing her rice green teeth, and smiled sweetly at me, calling me big brother. I thought, a girl so cherished, if I could marry her someday, I'd never let her suffer the slightest injustice. Later, grandmother died. With nowhere to seek justice, I nearly lost my life too. Lying on the ground, I felt life held no meaning, yet I refused to accept it. Why? Why should noble families, perched high above, so easily take the lives of common folk? I wouldn't stand for it. I would seek revenge. I would bring down the noble families. But I had nothing, only a worthless life. To exact my vengeance, I needed to rise high and grasp power. No place was closer to power than the imperial palace. I entered the palace. Before entering, I exchanged all my money for a silver lock and entrusted it to Uncle Jiang. His kindness, I will remember forever. I didn't know how long I'd live after entering the palace, nor if I'd live to repay his kindness. If I'd live to see Yan Yan grow up. But I became a eunuch, castrated, no longer an ordinary man. I could never marry her. I gave her the silver lock, hoping only for her safety and happiness. Starting as a lowly eunuch, I endured countless injustices. Step by step, I climbed upward by any means necessary. I knew this path had no return, and I couldn't drag Uncle Jiang down with me. After entering the palace, I pretended not to know him, severing all private contact. By the time I finally reached a high position, Yan Yan had married. The Jiang family was gone too. A single fire, everything was lost. I hated myself for being powerless. Knowing exactly who my enemy was, yet unable to do anything. I made my plans, I plotted. My patience was formidable. Lying low, enduring, these were my specialties. Like an exceedingly patient beast, I lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment to deliver the fatal blow to my prey. Yan Yan came looking for me, clutching a silver locket. Her husband had gone off to war on their wedding day. He died soon after. She became a young widow. Pitiful, yet fortunate. After all, most men are unreliable. Her dead husband returned. Clinging to the Duke of Ying's coattails, he sought to demote her from wife to concubine. TSK. A complete fool. Better off dead. Yan Yan sought a divorce, wanting me as her protector. Shows some wit, she even schemed to use me. Build an academy beside the orphanage. I agreed, of course. That fool thought Yan Yan was an orphan and tried to scheme against her. Greedy bastard. I deliberately chose the day of his wedding to arrive. Not only would I bully him with my power, I'd also tell him Yan Yan was mine. I would protect her. I was her protector. Yan Yan always thought our relationship was a mutual exchange of benefits. She sees fiancé as just a label. So be it. As a eunuch, marrying her only burdens another girl. In a couple of years, after I'm gone, I'll find Yen Yen a good place to go. But Yen Yen said in front of others that in her heart, I'm worth more than 1,000 generals. I'm starting to feel reluctant. I don't want her to leave. The beauty trap on Helin. That fool actually fell for it. That kick from Yen Yen. TSK, it hurt just watching. But Yen Yen got wet, and that fool saw it. I should have gouged his eyes out. Before leaving, Yen Yen delivered 2 more kicks. That felt satisfying. Why didn't I kill him? Oh, Yen Yen said it was too much trouble. Fine, I'll take that as her caring for me. So, how can I keep her by my side forever? Her heart softened, my feigned injury worked. Got Yen Yen in my arms. Her hair is so soft, like satin. She cares about me, and she's so anxious. She has feelings for me, right? Right? Whatever. I don't want to let her go. Yen Yen is smart, using the academy to build my reputation. I never planned on living. This path was never meant to be a return journey. But Yen Yen wants me to live. She truly cares for me. No doubt about it. Why is that idiot here again? Annoying. Thankfully, Yen Yen finds him irritating too. Ugh, shameless. Slandering me like that. Yen Yen slapped him in anger. See? I knew it. Yen Yen has feelings for me. That shameless fool is infuriating. Yen Yen won't regret marrying me. If she wants to kill someone, I'll hand her the blade. If trouble comes, I'll take the blame. I'm her rock. That lost daughter of the Duke of Ing still has the nerve to call herself Yen Yan's savior. No wonder she and Helin hit it off. Both of them are shameless. Thankfully, Yen Yen is smart enough not to be fooled by her. Cut the grass at its roots, who knows what might happen if she's left alive. TSK, Yen Yen being too clever isn't good either. She saw through my scheme. What now? I have no choice but to admit it. I have, indeed, coveted her for a long time. The end.